A worker has been killed in an industrial accident at a council work site in the Adelaide Hills. Emergency crews rushed to Charleston near Loberthal at 6:15 this morning after the 26-year-old man was found dead. Adelaide Hills Council says its thoughts are with the family, first responders and staff impacted. Safe Work SA is investigating.
Police are hunting an arsonist who set fire to a Smithfield Plains home this morning while the resident was asleep inside. He managed to escape injury, but the blaze was so ferocious the home will probably have to be demolished.
Fortunately, smoke alarms woke John just in time to escape these flames at his Greenwood Crescent home at about 1 a.m. He ran to a neighbour's home for help, but there was little they could do.
Oh, it was full on, yeah. Up through the roof, out through the front of the house, yeah.
He's probably lucky that he got out because, it could have seriously harmed him, or even just the smoke alone can harm him.
A dozen firefighters battled the flames and stopped them spreading to nearby properties. Neighbours say the man who lived here is known to police and he's notorious for playing loud music for up to 24 hours a day.
He plays his heavy metal, not even heavy metal, thrash, rubbish, yeah, techno crap. Right. Yeah.
All day, all night?
All day, all night, yeah. I've had a few run-ins with him myself, trying to tell him to shut it down, but yeah, he doesn't care.
The music is very hard to miss when you can hear it all the way down here and it's very loud.
Police want to hear from anyone who saw suspicious activity near the house early this morning. Neighbours are just glad they'll now get some peace and quiet. So it's going to be quieter from now on?
Yeah, it's going to be very quiet from now on, yeah.
And how do you feel about that?
Good night sleeping.
The rental property has been gutted and will likely be demolished. Peter Caldecott, 7 News.
The number of bird flu cases in SA has soared to above 200. Most of the new 49 detections are in Greater Crested Terns, including one found at Craigmore, but there's still no evidence the virus has spread to our poultry industry. Meantime, the world's largest wildlife vaccination program is underway in Victoria to try to save Phillip Island's famous penguin colony. Authorities are in a race against time to vaccinate 5,000 penguins now that bird flu has been detected on the island.
A much-loved young school librarian who died from a stroke could still be alive today had her medical case been handled differently. An inquest has heard Kate Sylvia was diagnosed with a migraine and sent home to sleep it off, despite her mum raising serious concerns.
4.5 years after losing her daughter, Catherine Sylvia is still struggling to find the words.
We just want to say from the family, sorry.
A coronial inquest has shone a spotlight on Kate Sylvia's preventable death. The 32-year-old developed pain and neurological symptoms in December 2021. On the 2nd, an ambulance took her not to hospital but to an intermediate care clinic. She was told she had a migraine and was sent home. On the 3rd, her mum drove her to the Queen Elizabeth. On the 4th, she was transferred to the Royal Adelaide, and on the 6th, she died of a stroke. Tragically, the Deputy Coroner has ruled that if paramedics had taken Kate straight to hospital, or if the intermediate care clinic had referred her, scans would have diagnosed the stroke and saved her life.
Beautiful soul. Just beautiful soul.
She was very special. She was unique.
4 recommendations have been made to try to prevent these circumstances from happening to anyone else. One of them is for SA Health to consider a program that allows a patient's family to escalate care when they feel their concerns are not being taken seriously.
The clinicians need to listen to family. When you think things are not quite right, they need to be sure that they listen.
Lauren Rose, 7 News.
A friend of the young woman killed in a car crash at Hallett Cove last week has been caught speeding on the same stretch of road. The 21-year-old's death last Tuesday prompted a police safety blitz on Lonsdale Road. Police caught the man travelling at 96 k's in the 80 zone. He told patrols he was disappointed in himself. Another driver was clocked at 110.
A Barossa hotel is the latest casualty of ATM bandits who robbed the pub of thousands of dollars in just minutes. But they weren't rolling in riches for very long, police arresting 3 suspects just hours after their getaway.
It's just after 3 a.m. at the Greenock Hotel when a balaclava-clad trio smashes through its century-old doors, eyes only on an ATM full of cash.
That's all they are, scumbags.
Security cameras across the road capture their ute driving by before reversing to collect the loot. The robbery taking just 3 minutes.
And certainly I heard the vehicle depart, a big screeching of tyres and a thrashing of the engine as it took off.
The ATM was only topped up on Monday, so it could have been $20,000. I'm not sure until our accountant comes in.
It's the latest in a string of ATM thefts in the northern suburbs. Hotels in St Kilda, Elizabeth and Two Wells were targeted in recent weeks, as well as service stations in Virginia and Gawler East.
It seems a very similar occurrence to what happened there.
Only this time, police were on their tail, finding a burnt-out ATM and arresting 3 suspects by 9 a.m.
Police are on the ball all the time, and they're probably too busy to be handling shit like this.
The 3 Andrews Farm men aged 21, 20 and 18 will face court here in Elizabeth tomorrow, charged with serious criminal trespass, theft and illegal use of a motor vehicle.
Kimberly Pratt, 7 News.
A woman's been airlifted to the Royal Adelaide Hospital after a horror cliff fall in the Riverland. The 40-year-old was winched to safety by a state rescue helicopter after falling 10 metres at Waikerie. She'd slipped while doing the popular cliff top walk around 9:45 this morning. Emergency crews made their way to the base of the cliff to stabilise her. She suffered a broken wrist and possible internal injuries.
There's been a stunning courtroom about face involving the 2 directors of an NDIS provider charged over the death of disabled woman Annie Smith. Let's go live to Deanna Williams. Dee, one of them has pleaded guilty and the other has been cleared of any wrongdoing.
Rosanna, the sisters were always jointly accused until today when Amy Collins stood in the dock and pleaded guilty not to criminal neglect but the downgraded charge of reckless conduct. The shock confession was closely followed by another bombshell. Prosecutors announced all charges against her sister, Alison Virgo, a co-director of Integrity Care, had been dropped. What's happened to Alison? What have you got to say to the family? 54-year-old Annie Smith, who had cerebral palsy, was found in squalid conditions in her Kensington Park home in 2020. She died of septic shock. The court heard while Collins had a duty of care to Annie Smith, she exposed her to a serious risk of injury. Miss Smith's carer, Rosa Mayoni, who was employed by Integrity Care, is serving a 6-year jail term for manslaughter. Collins was allowed to remain on bail ahead of her sentencing submissions later this month, and she faces a maximum penalty of 5 years behind bars. Will?
All right, thank you, Dee. Police have now formally ended their search for little Lewis Wright, the 3-month-old boy who died along with his sister and mother off Port Macdonald last month. Specialist divers returned to the rocky coastline last week but failed to find anything. A coronial investigation is ongoing, with police treating the case as a murder-suicide.
4 people have escaped a ferocious house fire at Port Adelaide. Flames ripped through the Princes Street home around 1:15 this afternoon.
On arrival, crews noticed that the house was fully involved with fire and the roof was collapsing and all the contents on the roof and in the ceilings were falling into the middle of the house. This was a particularly nasty fire.
Fire cause investigators are still trying to determine what sparked the blaze.
An Australian who was on board a passenger ferry that burst into flames off Bali has told 7 News he floated for hours waiting to be rescued. The boat was bound for the popular island of Lombok when the fire took hold. 1 person is confirmed dead.
Huddling in life jackets as black smoke billows from below. Dozens of passengers watch on as flames fill the ferry. Their only escape is a leap of faith into the sea in complete darkness. Among them, at least 1 Australian.
Get bigger, the flames, I got on here, the fire. Okay. Just mass big. And then everyone panic and just rip life jacket. Okay. Right, no lifeboats. No boats.
James Scooth suffering broken ribs, floating for hours.
The swell bigger than like that.
You are swimming in the sea?
Just floating.
Launching, okay.
Yeah, 4 hours or so, 4 hours, I think.
By daybreak, rescue boats began the arduous task of plucking passengers to safety. This man drops to his knees with relief. Speechless, this rescuer says, "I still feel the trauma." The boat had left from Bali's main public ferry terminal, Padang Bai Port, where tourists often leave for the Gili Islands. This ferry was bound for tourist hotspot Lombok, a larger vessel designed to carry cars and trucks, where one passenger claims the fire began. This mother says she only had time to save her child. Tonight, one passenger is dead, more than 100 were rescued. This now the second deadly Indonesian ferry fire in as many weeks. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs investigating exactly how many Australians were involved. Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.
Assault charges against Bondi Beach terror attack hero Ahmed Al-Ahmed have been dropped after he was accused of assaulting his father in Sydney earlier this year.
The law has been served. I'm innocent.
He still has to abide by some court-imposed restrictions.
What started as a joke about melons is no laughing matter now for the Prime Minister. Even the federal police could get involved. The government source is now accused of potentially breaking the law by sharing an exchange between Anthony Albanese and the Japanese Prime Minister to 7 News.
The corridors of Parliament ripe for melon melodrama.
What's happened? Has the Prime Minister dropped dead or what? Over the melons. You know these?
Just a bit of fun, apparently, but not when Anthony Albanese is accused of doing it.
It's disgusting what he's done, and he cannot apologise, and that is not leadership.
The Prime Minister denies these gestures, discussing Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's gift of melons were intentionally rude, as his podcast host Nikki Osborne revels in the controversy. A controversy now with its own hashtag Melongate hitting the Japanese news as the coalition calls in the police to out 7 News' source after we revealed official correspondence on Monday in which the Japanese embassy said the issue was being sensationalised and Mr Albanese had no ill intention, and a letter from Prime Minister Takaichi expressing heartfelt gratitude for Australia's deep friendship.
It is possible that this disclosure is a criminal offence.
Ted and I have written to the AFP Commissioner.
But I can save the AFP some unnecessary work. In 33 years of covering federal politics, I have never revealed a source, and I'm not about to do it now.
Seriously, the Liberals are losing the plot here.
The hypocrisy from the Labor women like Claire, that is an utter disgrace.
Angus Taylor demanding an apology.
Why won't the Prime Minister stop treating us like fools, man up and say sorry to the Prime Minister of Japan?
The Prime Minister of Japan is a good friend of Australia.
The Japanese embassy tonight issuing a public statement. We've been informed by the Australian side that Prime Minister Albanese did not make the comments in the manner that has been reported. No need to call the police in on that one. It is crucial for journalists to protect our sources, particularly in a fast-changing media landscape bombarded daily with misinformation and disinformation from self-styled online crusaders and half-dressed influencers who are all afforded the same standing as mainstream media organisations that are governed by regulators, laws and a code of ethics. Facts today are more important than ever, and we often have to provide the protection of anonymity to reveal those facts. The truth can often be inconvenient. Sometimes it's a bit hard to swallow. But the truth is always essential, even in an international misunderstanding over melons. Rosanna.
Thank you, Mark. Well, today marks 50 years since the CFS officially came into being, and to celebrate, the service has taken delivery of the first of 15 new state-of-the-art trucks.
They've been designed by firefighters for firefighters to ensure that the equipment is easy to access and is where our firefighters need it to be able to assist the community quickly and, most importantly, safely.
The new fleet, which has cost $10 million, will be deployed right across the state from Stirling to Roxby Downs.